Hello and welcome to NBL Overtime. 18 rounds down, only 2 remain. The NBL regular season is approaching its end, but with that means more storylines, more drama. The stakes are raised even more. Liam Santamaria to my right, Leonard Copeland to my left, who looks like he's just finished table service at a local bar.
Do you like my shirt? Do you like it? It's nice, huh?
It's nice. Well, I'll tell you what, you look like you've steamed it a little, which, my man, Liam.
Well,
come on. Now, you look like you're off the Dutton Ranch in Yellowstone, first off. But
We're really going to start the show like this? Are we really going to start it like this?
Hey, right, good to have you, man. Yeah. Shout out to Cam. Hey, we miss you. We miss you.
Hurry back. Hurry back.
Please come back. But good to have you, bro.
Well, I'll tell you what, my rundown has start talking about the losers to begin with, which I think that's just Cam's negativity sometimes. You know, he wants to talk about...
It's either the losers or Melbourne United.
It's losers or Melbourne United. You know, I want to talk about the Wildcats, stuff like that. But first off, before we get into the big winners from round 18, we're going to have a look at the Mitsubishi Motors standing and the ladder. Because I'll tell you what, this one just gets closer and closer week in, week out. And if you're at home, don't forget your ladder predictor. You can jump onto the NBL website and use that ladder predictor. Little minute changes can have massive effects. Bit of a butterfly effect thing going on.
Yeah, and that's what we're finding when we watch the games, right? The live ladder that comes up during the games, it just flips and flops all over the place. And the ladder predictor is fun. I had a very good time with that this afternoon.
We say this every year, but this is the most exciting year I've seen in a long time. A very long time.
We do say that every year, though.
Every
the parity
year.
from top to bottom, where everyone is in with a chance heading into the final round. It's crazy. Good luck finding a sporting league anywhere outside in the world that's very similar to that. But we'll start off with the big winners from round 18, and the most of which, at the moment, the New Zealand Breakers. We'll tuck into a little of the final details a little bit later, but for the most of which, it was a great effort, a great win over a great Perth Wildcats lineup.
Well, that's right. I mean, you're playing a top 2 team. They're 1 win away from clinching a top 2 spot, the Wildcats, and the Breakers were 10-13. Yes, they got games in hand, but you go down 10-14, and now things are starting to get a little dicey. So to go into RAC Arena, get that win, they had the injury to one of their main guys, and they still were able to power through and get that win. And it really sets them up, Copes, now in their push for the playoffs.
I call that game. They looked like they meant business from the word go. I mean, that first half, PJC was, no one could guard him. We talked about it throughout the whole first half. They had no one really called timeout after timeout, trying to change his defense. He was just going one-on-one and getting it done. And then the second half happened, and Perth made a run. But look,
he's a killer.
He's a killer. He's a killer. Yeah, he is one of the best players in this league. And what he did that first half scares a lot of people.
In true New Zealand fashion, they just, over the last 2-3 years, it feels they have not been able to catch a break. Anthony Lamb going down. We'll hopefully hear from Olgun a little bit later on the exact extent of the injury. But I think just from the looks test, you can say he's probably not going to be taking part in the rest of the season. Went down 8 minutes into this game, and Liam, you said before the show, as Modi mentioned in the press conference, the first time they had a full roster for the year, and it lasted 8 minutes.
And it's a sorry sight. We've seen too many Achilles injuries. Now, I'm suspecting I've done my Achilles. We've seen it with Jack White. We've seen it with Ariel Hookporty. We saw it with Dejan Vasiljevic in these last few years. So to see this one is a crying shame, because he's been spectacular this season, and they are a team that, with him in the lineup, are a threat to win the championship, not just make the playoffs, but to go on an almighty run. So they were able to get that win without him, but it's obviously it's going to be difficult. Very sad sight to see him go down.
It was bad, and like you said, when you see him look back, you know it's either a calf or Achilles. But like you said, it's good enough to get the win in Perth. Perth's the hardest place to win in this place, in the NBL. To go to Perth to get the win. But what worries me more is that the second half, PJC set in third quarter and didn't play, and they lost the momentum. Now, who else scores for them if there's no Lamb?
Well, there's the issue. We'll have a look at the run home for New Zealand, because right now you've got to work out, are they still a contender losing Lamb? Because the point you raise is big, because we saw when PJC was sitting on the bench, they really dropped off.
Well, this is not a terrible run home, because, they've got 2 of those games at home against teams that, they're also in the race for the playoffs against, and then they go away. Now, Melbourne away, that's very, very tough. Adelaide, we know they've been terrific. They've won 6 of their past 8 games, but now they're out. So what are they going to look like in that last game of the season? It's hard to say, but, their fate is very much still in their own hands. I think they can cover for the loss of Anthony Lamb, more so than they could cover for the loss of some other guys, in particular Zylan Cheatham. Now, Zylan Cheatham is back, bro. He is back and playing at a really high level. 24 points and 8 rebounds in this win over Perth. For me, he's their most important player. PJC, Anthony Lamb, they've been sensational. We know what Will McDowell-White can do when he's playing at a high level. But for me, Zylan Cheatham was the key to their season. And his injury earlier in the year is why I wrote him off.
Yep.
And now that he's back and healthy is the right reason I'm writing him back in. Now, I think the Lamb injury caps their championship aspirations, but I still feel like with Cheatham playing at this level, Delaney back, PJC playing well, Will McDowell-White ramping up, they can make the playoffs.
We spoke about this as well. Their bench is probably deeper than any bench in the league. Then you got Finn Delaney coming back. You got Abercrombie, who has more experience than anybody. If you can get one of those two guys playing well, then you could probably cover Lamb, but it's going to be tough because now teams can focus now on PJC, shut him down, like they're doing your boy Cotton, and they give themselves a chance.
I refuse to sit here and say any predictions based on the NBL because absolutely anything can happen. Even when we talk run home, we're talking about teams that are 1-2 losses behind them.
No. I'm not going to let you get away with that, bro. Are you in or you out on the Breakers?
Yeah. Are you in or you out? Get off the fence.
Are you in or you out?
Well, big winners from round 18, the JackJumpers coming up next. No, I'm in on the Breakers.
Okay.
I think Modi's a good enough coach. They can work around that. I think I'm with you on the camp that Cheatham, if he's gone, no chance. They're out. Then I'm out. But Lamb, I think they can cover points. Delaney starts to find a bit. They can cover points.
Isn't that funny to say, though, because Lamb's their All-NBL First Team guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy that's going to be in that squad, I suspect, and that's the general consensus.
Are you trying to talk me into the out camp now?
And yet, we're saying there's still a chance to get these wins and get their way in.
It's going to be tough.
You out? You're out.
I'm in, but I'm just saying it's going to be tough.
I think that's called an old Andrew Gaze fence sitting.
Don't put the pressure on me like that, man.
Okay, won't come to you for any predictions. The JackJumpers also another one. They were clinical for the basketball purists out there. It was beautiful watch. Milton Doyle with the ball in his hands, 10 assists, unbelievable effort.
Really good weekend from the JackJumpers. They have Cairns who are desperate. And they have Adelaide who are desperate to keep their seasons alive. And they come in and they just go bang, bang and slit the throats of both those squads.
That team, if Milton Doyle is playing the way Milton Doyle has played last year and this game, then they're a chance to win a championship. He's the glue to that team. Yes, they got Crawford. Yes, they have Magnay. Yes, they have other guys who can, McVeigh who can score, who had 26 points in this game. But Milton Doyle is the go-to guy. That's the guy they go to get things done. And when he's rolling, the team is rolling. They're the JackJumpers of old.
Well, on that topic of who's rolling, Jack McVeigh is always the X factor for me when it comes to them. We talk about teams needing a few extra points here and there. When the JackJumpers need them, McVeigh seems to be that guy, and he looks to have just lifted his game just to that extra little level this season, especially maybe consistency still needs to come a little bit, but he's had some monster games, this being one of them.
He was fantastic. That was the opening play of the game. And he went to the bench and he got everybody and with the gun show, and then he just went to work. He's so fundamentally sound. He's like the medium-sized Fundy. Forget the big Fundy. He's like the medium Fundy because he's so fundamental. He takes his time. He operates at his own pace. The Doyle-McVeigh pick and pop is really hard to guard.
Yes, it is.
You have to switch it. Now, if you do, Doyle's going to go to work, or McVeigh will then make his way down to the block and do his thing down low. So he's playing at a really high level. 26 and 10 at 70% from the field was a sensational game. And I feel like Jack McVeigh is poised for some big-time postseason moments. Feels like this is going to be the year where he has those moments that we'll never forget in the cut and thrust of the postseason.
And remember, when they do come, if they have to come to Melbourne to play, they always play great when they come to Melbourne. They always, whoever it is, they end up beating them in Melbourne because they love John Cain Arena.
Well, they're probably going to finish third, which means they'll host the 3-4 seeding qualifier, which means they'll probably win that and play Perth.
Right.
You think they beat Perth in a semi-final series?
If they're playing the way they're playing now. If Doyle is rolling like he's rolling, McVeigh's playing good basketball, Magnay's healthy, they can beat Perth.
Well, we'll check their run home right now because only 2 games remaining for them. And Jack McVeigh, we talk time and time again about his mindfulness and manifesting and all that sort of stuff off court. You look at his numbers and you think maybe it's working. Maybe we should give that a crack at some point. Bit of journaling.
I like it. Is he a sneaky All-NBL First Team chance?
Well, I don't think quite the consistency
Nah.
to make it.
All right. The run home, I think the first one's a win, with all due respect to our man and his squad.
After what we saw with Sydney and South East Melbourne, I will never hear again that something is a guaranteed win.
Okay, all right. But then that second one might be a preview to that semi-final series.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, but I just think, look, for some strange reason, their coach he thrives for these kind of games. He looks for these kind of games. He'll be the one to go in, do what he does defensively. But again, it has to be Doyle on the offensive end, and it has to be Crawford, and it has to be Magnay who's healthy.
Yeah, or Magnay or Jack McVeigh. You get one of them.
Is it a 3-horse race for the title?
No.
Is it Melbourne, Perth, Tassie?
I say yes. With Lamb going out, because I would have said yes or no with New Zealand, but with Lamb going out, it's top 3.
Okay.
I think you still give the team we're about to touch on now, Illawarra, with a big win over Brisbane. I just think there's something to be said for momentum. And time again, they've lost games, then bounced back. I just like the momentum, the Cinderella story we've got going here. I think they're a legitimate chance, especially when the nerves get on. You think in your head, there's no way we can lose to Illawarra.
Big time win. Huge win in the context of their season, that win over Brisbane.
Yep.
And at 3/4 time, we're thinking, man, this could go either way here, and they just shut them down. 10 points for Brisbane in that fourth quarter. Huge win, and some of their big guys standing up in a big way.
Their next 4 games, New Zealand, Sydney, Perth, Melbourne. I'm going to tell you why they can get New Zealand, because no Lamb. I think they can go get New Zealand. Sydney are so up and down, you don't know what you're going to get from Sydney. And that's only an hour drive for them. It's not really a away game. Perth, they've been the Perth stoppers this year. They've beaten Perth twice. They've shut Cotton down twice. And at home, Melbourne, they might struggle. But the other three, I said they can get 3 out of 4.
Melbourne might get funky in that final round.
I doubt it.
Because they might be locked into first place. I doubt it as
Dean
well.
won't do that.
Yeah, and they've had some experiences in that regard.
Yeah.
I think that's a tough run home.
It is. But they're playing good basketball.
New Zealand?
Without
we just
Lamb.
talked about how they can cover for Lamb.
You said it. I don't think they can cover for Lamb.
Okay. I said it. I think they lose to New Zealand. Sydney are then waiting, and they'll be fresh in Sydney.
What Sydney are we going to get, though?
Well, I mean, what if you get that Sydney that whacked New Zealand?
What if you get
the Sydney
that played against South East Melbourne?
Yeah, but if we're going to sit here and say what ifs, you can say
that's
that.
right.
The whole season is a what if.
That's right. That's right.
Man, but I tell you, Gary Clark has been sensational this back half of the season, man. Like playing inside, outside, the numbers against Brisbane with 3. He's like 20 and 10 basically every game right now. And he has stood up to become their crunch time operator.
Yeah.
And when the ball found him in that big moment on the 3-point line, in this moment right here in the last minute, you just knew it had found the right man. And we know Tyler Harvey's clutch.
Yes.
But it's such peaks and valleys sometimes with your man from Eastern Washington. Whereas with Gary Clark, you know he's going to come up big time in the big moments. And I feel like that team has found an identity through establishing him as their go-to guy.
It's also better to have a guy like that as the go-to guy where, as you said, I can remember sitting there watching the game with you. You said, bang, that's the move. As soon as Gary Clark catches the top there, he can take you to the rack.
Right.
He can stay there. If you're sagging off, he's going to shoot that 3. There's just a lot more options. Whereas when you do go to Tyler late in the game, you sort of know where it's going. And there's a predictability about that. With Gary Clark, it sort of removes a bit of that, and they've been a lot more potent late game.
You got to give Harvey some credit, too, though. He's changed his game. He's a team player now. Not that he wasn't, but it was more about him and his points and his jump shot. Now he makes the right passes. He's coming down. The first 4 or 5 plays, he's trying to get it inside to those guys.
No,
and then they kick it out. That's when he's taking the shot. And that's why he's so effective this year.
Well, I think they understand. Once you start winning games, it's all good and well to play this role that the coaches ask you. But if you're losing games, like they were earlier in the piece, it's hard to stick with that role. You know, you played 10,000 times the games as me, which you like to remind me of quite often as well. It's 2-time NBL point scorer right here. But they're the sort of things where when you're winning games and you put that stuff into motion, you're much happier to stick with it. You start losing games and you start saying, Tyler's saying, like, you know what, maybe I could.
My team, I want to do my
maybe I
thing.
could fit a few more step backs in there, but I want to bring this one up for you, Liam.
What?
Because this was, I don't know whether you should be happy or sad about this. AJ Johnson's poster slam, next star on next star crime. Up top on Rocco's account.
Love it.
That's a
Like
grown
a
man done.
proud
That's a grown
father.
man done.
Oh man, I'm
What were
so
you
happy.
doing? What were you doing?
I
when
was
you
in
saw
the
this?
change room with Jack.
Hey, hold on.
we were getting sorted to call the throwdown, and we had the game on the TV in there, and I was pretty amped. I was so happy.
Jump up?
I was happy for the young man. You know, like it's been an up and down season, right? Like they've had a coaching change. He's been in the lineup, out of the lineup, and I just know the talent that he has, and there's been some extraordinary flashes of it. But to have one at that level over a world-class shot blocker who's going to be a first-round pick was a terrific moment.
What I want to ask as well is, what is with the next stars only dunking on next stars? Saar has been the victim to Trenton Flowers twice during this year. I don't think Flowers has dunked on anyone else but Saar. It seems to be only next stars that are dunking on each other. Incestual.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got two guys that are elite shot blockers that are going after everything, and you've got extraordinary athletes in Flowers and AJ Johnson. And I tell you, man, like smart NBA team is going to pick this kid up and steal him out of the draft.
What's the latest on him, though? What's the latest on draft choice?
His decision making is still to play out, but I tell you, that is NBA level athleticism. And he's got the handle. He's got some things to tighten up and get stronger and whatnot, but he's just oodles of talent.
Oodles. Absolutely love the descriptive term there. Did you text Rocco or did you text AJ after that? Did you text condolences or congratulations? Or did you group text it and say, hey, well done?
I just tagged AJ in.
Oh, there we go. AJ, Rocco, the next stars are doing it all. We'll be back not too long. Not a dry eye in the house. Damian Martin, the favourite son of the Perth Wildcats, getting his jersey retired. Now, in any sports industry, Liam Santa Maria, Leonard Copeland, it is hard to find anyone that has spoken about glowingly from every single corner, where not only are they an athlete, but also they are a tough, hard-nosed defender, and that is exactly what Damian Martin is, and somehow he has been able to play a role that is notoriously designed for people you are not meant to like, but done it being the most likeable person in possibly NBL history. Deserves every single centimetre of that retired banner right there.
Absolutely. When you think of Damian Martin, you think of leadership, you think of sacrifice, you think of hard nose. Because remember all the injuries he went through and come back strong. He was the epitome of a team player, because it was all about defense or whatever they needed. They needed a jump shot in the corner, he'd do it. If they needed for him to stop somebody, he'd do it. And he deserves everything he's got.
Yeah, it was very cool to see. You know, like it speaks to his greatness that it didn't take long at all to have the trophy named after him. Right? Defensive Player of the Year. And then it didn't take long at all to have his jersey retired. There's no delay. Get that thing up there, because he's an out-and-out champion of the league. On the floor, off the floor. The leadership, the defense, just a winner, six-time champion.
He's a funny man, too. He's a funny man.
He's one of those secretly funny guys. Doesn't have to try hard. But if Bryce Cotton offensively is here, and you're saying he's the goat of this, goat of that, you got to be talking Damian Martin on that end of the floor. The one thing I do want to say with that jersey retirement is the new sort of standard that's been set for any jerseys retired in the future. Now, I think it's disappointing, in my opinion, to see 2 championships be put. So it's 200 games and 2 championships in order to have, that is the minimum standard to have your jersey retired at the Perth Wildcats. I think that is disappointing. I think in the future, you may now run down the path where you have a player who's given his blood, sweat and tears. He might have been in 3 or 4 championship series and they've only won 1 championship, and you're telling me this guy doesn't have their jersey retired? I think it's disappointing to add that in. I understand the Perth Wildcats, above everyone, have the highest standard for success, and it's what's made them, in my opinion, the greatest club in the NBL. But I think that's a disappointing standard, and I think there's a lot of ramifications there that maybe haven't been thought of down the track.
There's a fair assumption there that they're going to continue to win a whole heap of championships. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I look at a guy like Tim Conrad in Illawarra, I would like to see his jersey retired. Didn't win 1. Because they've only won 1 in their history. But sounds like there's an assumption from the Wildcats, like we're going to keep turning those things over.
With the Perth Wildcats, you are always 2 wins away or 2 losses away from being in form and out of form. Where do we sit with the Wildcats right now?
Well, I've lost a couple in recent times here and a couple at home, right? Illawarra and New Zealand. I'm not worried about them.
You're not?
They've got a little bit to work out here in terms of the way Bryce is getting defended. and how that's impacting their offensive production. But I think they'll get there. I wasn't worried about Tassie when they were a little up and down a little while ago. And I'm not worried about this Perth team heading towards the postseason.
I think I'm a little bit worried about them because teams now are sorting out how to guard Bryce Cotton.
We hear that every year. Bryce Cotton has a couple of bad games. They've worked him out. They've worked him out.
No, we don't hear that every year.
The next week.
And he might do that. He's that good. All I'm saying is to lose 2 games like he's lost, and he was 2 for 12 against Illawarra at home and 3 for 14 the other day against New Zealand, okay? So teams are now doubling them, and they want someone else to beat them, okay? Perth needs somebody else who can score 20-plus points. Who is that man to you? Who does that?
They've got a number of guys that need to step up. Now, firstly, it's not just the double teaming, right? It's the physicality. He's like a pinball at times. The hit from Mantas Rubstavicius. Look at Bryce on the other side. Boom. Just sticks the hip out and just checks him. Now, Bryce gets up. I love this from Waxer, flying the flag, looking after his man. And, Bryce is not happy about it because he's been receiving quite a lot of this in recent times.
Is that abnormal? Is that abnormal to you? Is
That's
that
fine.
No. I think it's highlighted because of the recent stuff. But for a man, that happens 3 to 4 times a game.
It's foul.
Yeah,
sure.
It's a foul. Yeah. It's a foul. But what are they supposed to do? He's the best player in the league. He's scoring 25 points a game. We're going to rough you up a little bit. That's the name of the game, man. It's not a soft game. It's a man's game. So, yes, Bryce Cotton probably deserves a couple of more fouls here or there. But you got to understand, if you've played this game a long time and you're scoring points, people want to find ways of slowing you down.
It's almost like the NBL's version right now of the Jordan rules. Right? Like when teams have said, all right, you know what? This is how it's going to be with MJ.
Yep.
We're going to rough him up. We're going to make him earn it.
Yep.
We're going to get the ball out of his hands. We're going to make him scared to come into the lane. That's what they're trying to do with Bryce Cotton, which is from just a neutral observer perspective, it's very fun to watch. To say this guy's at just an all-time level. Everyone's got to try to work out a way to deal with him. And what the Wildcats need to do now is they need those other guys, Keanu Pinder, Ty Webster,
there you go.
Jordan Usher, Doolittle, my man Alexander Sarr. Everybody needs to go, all right, it's now time for us to step up.
That's right.
Earlier in the season, it was time for us to step down a little and get Bryce going, and now it's the other way around.
Sure. Now, look, you're right. Now we're not focusing much on Bryce. We got to stop everyone else, and that's when Bryce can get his jump shot going or score his points.
Tell you what, I am very wary of writing off the Wildcats after 2 games. Not writing off, but talking down the Wildcats after 2 games, considering they lost 3 million games in the early part of the season and still managed to turn it around. I think my numbers might be a little bit off there. But we spoke about the winners a little earlier. It's time to get negative Cam Luke style and talk about the losers because
come on, man.
He's catching strays. He's over there. He's over there enjoying the Super Bowl while I'm going to work. So he's going to catch some strays right now.
Oh, wow.
But Brisbane. Now, I'm going to set the scene for you right now, Liam. You have been on Brisbane Island all year. You are currently at the water's edge. Food is scarce. There's no longer many animals you can eat. Some of them are venomous. But there is a ferry sitting right there that has passed by. Are you jumping on and leaving Brisbane Island?
I say I'm good. Keep going. I'm good. It's cloudy.
You're eating goat.
It's cloudy, but the sun is about to break through. I'm just going to dig my heels in once again and stay on the sand because they've got to go 2-0 here the rest of the way. That was a bad loss to Illawarra. 10 points in the fourth quarter, as we mentioned before. They really, really needed that. But I still give them hope. Adelaide and New Zealand to get into the finals. Their finals have started now. They're going to need 14 wins. They're on 12. They've got 2 games to go. I think they get there.
They don't get there unless they find a way to get their imports going. Scott Smith can't have 2 points in a game and expect Brisbane to win. If they don't show up, you're in trouble. Brisbane are done.
What about the fourth quarters, though? It's been time and time again. You mentioned 10 points in the last. It's been
That's because no one else is scoring.
Game.
They expect for Sobey to go out and get all the points. Now, Sobey's taking some tough shots. He's trying his best. Take a tough shot, fall down. Now it's 5-on-4 going the other way. But if other guys don't step up, if their imports don't step up here, they're in trouble. They won't make the playoffs.
Tough shots. Final minute. Now they're already in a hole here, right? So they're down 5. They're trying to make things happen in this final minute. And they're trying to get 3-point looks. The Hawks know it. They're defending the arc. And as a result, they're tough shots. And those guys didn't step up and knock them down. The damage was done earlier than this, though. Because, here they're down 9. And again, you hope that he can knock that down, but it doesn't go down. Justin Schuller has come in and changed this organisation around this year.
Sure.
On a day-to-day in terms of their habits, their values, what they do, and in particular at the defensive end. He hasn't been able to get them going offensively in those big moments just yet, but it's now or never. So they've sorted this week ahead of this game against Adelaide, get through that, and then it's all going to be on the line in that final round against New Zealand.
Well, I think Justin Schuller, as you mentioned, has done a fantastic job. And, of course, there's a lot of this roster that he inherited with some big pieces and some big contract guys that were already there. It's going to be exciting where he can take this team over the next sort of 3 to 4 years and hopefully longer. Now, we've got Adelaide, losers from round 18. And it says on my rundown, fun while it lasted.
Well,
that's got to be aggressive considering they've only dropped 2 games in 2024.
Well, look, Adelaide have surprised us. They've won some games they probably shouldn't have won. They play better now as a team. They're playing for Scotty Ninnis. They're playing better for him, okay? And they got some talent there. I just think now the run's over. I don't think they're going to be able to make the final 6. And it's a shame because we love seeing them play. We love the way they play. The crowd's in it. They're DJ's going nuts. Wiley's jumping up and down. We love how they play. But I just think they're not strong enough now.
Yeah, well, they were dead to water, right, at New Year's. They were on the bottom of the ladder. Basically, their season was over. So to go to play as well as they did throughout January and win as many games as they did, huge credit to them. Dejan Vasiljevic, Isaac Humphries, Trey Kell, Scott Ninnis, the big 4. And then, obviously, other guys stepped up, Kyron Galloway and different guys at different times. But those 4 in particular, huge credit to them for revitalising their season and bringing them back to life. But as a result of all those losses earlier on, their margin for error was so slim that loss to Tasmania means, am I right in saying they can only get to 13 wins with a poor percentage? And I don't think that's going to get it done.
Is it fair to keep that 4 together, though? Would you try to keep that 4 together for next year if Ninnis gets the job?
I think so. Yeah. Do you?
Yes. 100%.
Well, the way they're playing right now, for considering that a lot of this stuff is new, DJ coming in, bringing a high-volume scorer and a high-volume shot taker is hard at the best of times, let alone bringing a guy like that in halfway through the season. And you look at DJ signing Adelaide endorsement deals over there. He wants to be a part of this thing, and he wants to be a part of this city. And so does Scott Ninnis. Well, he's already a part of this city, but you can tell that he wants this job.
You know, the thing for me is Isaac Humphries. He's playing much better. He's having fun. Every time he does an interview, he's got a smile on his face because they're going to him. They're feeding him, so he feels like he's a part of it. So if you can keep those 4 together, I would bring Wiley back. I would try to bring Wiley.
Is that a realistic thing? Because right now, Isaac's played himself into one of the best bigs in the competition. Well, how much money have you paid DJ?
What kind of bag do you give Isaac Humphries?
One full of cash.
Do you know what I mean? They're going to have to really get to a level if they want to bring him back.
Yeah.
Because to be playing at the level that he's playing at right now and coming out of contract puts him in a very strong position in terms of his leverage.
If they're serious about being better next year, you got to sign him. I'm taking him 100%.
And so, all right, so then you bring back DJ, you bring back Isaac, you got those 2 big-time Aussies. Then do you bring back Trey Kell and say, you're our starting point guard?
Yes.
I think you do as well.
I think you do.
Yeah, I think you try to keep as much of this together as possible. The interesting thing for me is 2 games remaining. For me, you lose those 2 games, you really put a fairly big halt to this momentum because then it feels like going to the off-season, maybe it was just a bit of a spark. But if you win one of those, let alone if you win 2 of those, then you're coming into that off-season hyped up like, hey, what we've got is real, especially bouncing back off a loss.
So do you feel like that the re-signing of Scott Ninnis still depends on how these last couple of games go?
I think there would be a component to it, yeah. I think there would be a component. I don't think it should, but I think there would be.
I think the fans in Adelaide know what Scotty Ninnis brings. They can see the last month, these guys have just been playing fantastic basketball. They know they're looking forward to next year. They know they're not going to do anything this year. They're looking forward to it. You add another couple of pieces, and everyone's happy.
And you know what? Players are the first ones, especially ones that aren't playing a huge amount of minutes, are the first ones to say, I don't like the coach. They all like Scotty Ninnis from what I've heard. So it seems like a good fit. Adelaide legend. Everything joins together. But speaking of legends overall, Olgun Ulick, ESPN's newsbreaker, joining us next to break down all the latest news after the break.
Doesn't look good. Oh, this doesn't look good. I'm right up in the ribcage for Will Magnay, and he looks like he's really struggling here.
You know, he's as tough as they come, and you know, he'll bounce back, and I'm sure the league is going to take a very hard look at that. You know, we've had a few discussions over the last few weeks, especially with Magnay and his presence of rolling down the lane, and some people kind of targeting him a little bit, and some of that stuff needs to be cleaned up, but I'm sure the league will handle it.
Fighting words from Scott Roth protecting his big man, Will Magnay there. I'll tell you what, it is all happening in the NBL. A few fiery moments this year, and we love it nonetheless, but welcoming in the man who's going to break all that down because there has been some sanctions. ESPN newsbreaker, general friend of ours, Olgun Yulich.
Just a general friend, not even a good friend.
Well, I do like that we've covered the entire fashion spectrum right now by you wearing the blazer and shirt.
You did earn the legend status earlier.
Well, I thought Sauce was coming on, but I realised that that's next segment, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
That's okay. Tajima McCall, unduly rough play. So the sanctions have been handed out to Tajima McCall and to Will Magnay for his hit on Pat Miller. So Tajima McCall, so we got this one here, unduly rough play.
I did think this was rather unduly when it happened.
Do you think it's careless? Because it was careless, medium impact, low contact. So that's for this hit on Will Magnay. And then Will Magnay got sanctioned with unduly rough play as well. That one was intentional. Medium impact and low contact. So Will Magnay got hit with the intentional. Tajima McCall was, so that's there.
Was it low because Pat Miller's a short guy? Was it low?
No, I don't know. But the question that people are asking now is, and that caused a fracas too. But do you think that was more intentional than what Tajima McCall's was? Because that's the delineation that we've got from these sanctions that it came.
I'll let you speak on it, but I think they're basketball players. Move on. It's a foul in the game. I don't think we need to take it any further.
100%, man. Why are we making such a big deal about it? It happens all the time. You're going to get hit. They're two big men. They're grown men. Yes, don't go out and hurt anybody, but it's a basketball play.
It's a tough, strong, physical league. That's what we're known for in the NBL. And so every game matters, right? And when you're in push for the playoffs, things are going to get physical. Magnay, I don't like it when guys stop and prop in front of big guys running the lane.
Yeah.
Magnay does a lot of running and looking back, so that happens to him a fair bit. He saw Miller, he cleaned him up. Was it all those things intentional? Yes, it was all those things, and okay, it's a fine of some sort. But Tajima McCall's was intentional as well for mine. That wasn't
exactly what he
it was a little payback for what happened with Pat Miller earlier. And it was, you think you're going to roll down the lane here off this action. I'm coming across, bang.
Do you think a little payback? But tell me in what game in the world that there's no payback? Somebody's going to hit you back some kind of way. Now, it's probably not that obvious, but you're going to get an elbow here. You're going to get something's going to happen in a professional game.
And so did throwing the hands up, did that get him out from intentional to careless? Is that what happened?
Yeah. I don't know, but that was, so Tajima McCall ended up with a fine of $1,165 that with an early guilty plea was brought down to $775. Well, how do you think about the specificity of those numbers?
Can I speak on the general just ridiculousness of this? I understand these things potentially need to be fined, but $775
and 50 cents.
Just round that up to $800. $1,550. This is like getting a parking fine and having 49 cents attached to the end of it. It's just absolutely ridiculous. On what planet is that math?
You want to simplify it? You want some zeros on the end?
I want some zeros. Round it up or round it down. Maybe for my guys, round it down there. But
And just to complete the admin, Magnay's was a one-game suspension, suspended with an early guilty plea, which he accepted, down to $1,550.
Did they have to pay GST on that as well? Is that paid for by the club?
I didn't ask that question.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'm sure there's some sort of tax in there. But let's jump on to probably the biggest story of round 18. That was Anthony Lamb's injury. New Zealand a contender. Some, Leonard saying they're no longer a contender with Anthony Lamb out. How do you feel?
I think the Breakers have the talent to continue without him. I agree with Liam that Cheatham is probably more important positionally, but this is a huge blow. I'm told that this is a left Achilles rupture. As we record this, Anthony Lamb is at the doctors. They're back in New Zealand. It took them a while from Perth to New Zealand to get that flight over and then for him to have the MRI today. But I'm told that is a left Achilles rupture, so he's obviously out for the remainder of the season, and obviously that is a long rehab process that's coming up for Anthony Lamb.
I want to touch on this one because obviously we've spoken on whether New Zealand can still win without Lamb. Do you bring back He's been an All-NBL First Team guy. Is he a guy that, even though he's going to be out for 9 months, we've seen guys bounce back from Achilles, Jack White, DJ, very, very well. Is he a guy in New Zealand saying, look, it's going to be hard for you to get a contract overseas right now. We're probably your main option, and you could end up getting, for pennies on the dollar, which is, a bit tough to say, a All-NBL level guy next year?
I don't think you do it if you're the Breakers with Anthony Lamb. He's been fantastic. He's been awesome for the league. He's been awesome for them. But the import market is large, and especially over the course of the off-season, there's a lot of guys that you might be able to tap into. The Breakers, year after year after year, the help of different guys that they have connections with, they get high-level imports. Melbourne United did that a while back with Stephen Dennis, I think, a high-level guy, the Achilles, was it Achilles or?
Achilles, yeah.
Yep.
And he wasn't quite that same level the year after. We've seen some guys, as you say, Jack White, Ariel Hukporti have come back super strong, Dejan Vasiljevic, but I think as an import, you probably go in a different direction.
One thing that wouldn't surprise me, though, is if the New Zealand Breakers, who are resource-stricken compared to some other teams in the NBL, it wouldn't surprise me if they lend a hand in helping Anthony Lamb's rehab going forward, even if he's not signed to the team. They've done that with Justinian Jessup. Jessup is still in New Zealand. He is dealing with a very unique hip injury. They've been helping with his rehab, even though he hasn't been part of the playing group. It wouldn't surprise me if the Breakers, find it in their hearts, of course, to help out this guy through his rehab, someone who's been really important for their team this season.
Plenty of decisions to be made for the Breakers and for Anthony Lamb on his part. Now, I love a bit of reality TV-esque drama, and it felt like we had that in Cairns. Tajiri
certainly
McCall.
do love reality TV, don't you?
Yeah, mate,
Yes, he
and
does.
drama.
Yes.
I know you do. I
And
know
drama,
you love bringing
and
it up.
drama.
Taj McCall not starting Cairns' potentially biggest game of the season, and now there is inklings that there was drama going on behind the scenes because something had to have happened for him not to start that game. Do you have any word on what's happening, potentially behind closed doors in Cairns?
I'm curious as to what these inklings are. It was brought up amongst us. I checked. From what I understand, nothing untoward or nothing crazy or nothing material happened that forced this sort of thing. So I'm curious as to what the rumblings that you guys are hearing are.
Well, I mean, just like anyone else, we make phone calls and people say things that may be true, maybe not true. But the reason I made the call was because why would you not start your best player? This game is the most important game of the year because if you don't win it, you're out of the playoffs. Why wouldn't you start your best player, your leader, the guy who leads the team? Why wouldn't you start him in that game? And then I started saying something's going on here. And the word I'm hearing is that there was a little mix-up between Forty and McCall. And McCall was making calls that Forty didn't like or saying things, behind Forty's back, like, look, let's do it this way or let's do it that way. This is what I'm hearing. I'm not saying it's 100% true, but this is what I'm hearing. And Forty didn't like that and said, wait a minute, we gotta, I'm the coach, we gotta straighten this thing out.
Snitch. Snitch.
Wow.
Snitch. This dude just made a call. Someone said, hey, Lynette, I'm telling you.
I'm just telling you what I heard, Liam.
I'm telling you
that's
this
what I'm
in
supposed
confidence.
to do.
Make sure you don't go on
No, there was no confidence.
mention this, but here's what's
There
going
was
on.
no confidence. He just said, listen, this is what happened.
It's a he.
So at the end of the day,
Well done.
At the end of the day, it could be wrong, Liam, but I'm telling you what I heard.
So
I will add for that I have heard the same thing.
Okay,
I have
double
heard the
snitch.
same thing.
Double snitch.
Double
right?
snitch, I've heard the same thing.
So you guys sort of flagged this. I checked with some people that I trust. I was told that there wasn't a thing. So here we have Felix.
what do you have?
You texted Gazy.
What do you have, Liam?
Let me say, look, from a basketball perspective, we've seen some funky lineups with the Taipans all year. We've seen starting lineups, so we go, hold on, what's going on there? We've seen guys coming off the bench to say, oh, that's interesting.
Sure.
We've seen a player coaching a game, Tajiri McCall coaching a game in preseason. 40 does some things that maybe you don't necessarily see other coaches do.
Sure.
We saw what happened when they beat Melbourne United. All of a sudden,
Josh
Roberts is
playing
starting,
minutes,
and Jonah Antonio he's mixed it up all season long.
Yep.
But you're right, it was a huge game, and it was Tajiri McCall.
That's right.
And it has felt like those two have been joined at the hip over the last 12, 18 months in leading that team.
Yep.
So I did see it and think, that's strange. You guys are talking about things that you're hearing and whatnot. There's a lot. It seems like there's a lot going on there with Cairns, and they haven't had the kind of season that they had last year. And when there's losses, there's frustration, and people can sometimes start to fray a little bit.
Yep.
I'm fascinated to see how they pull it together for these last couple of games.
So the frustration stuff is real. Obviously, you string some losses together and the group sort of loses confidence and things start to happen. But there's a reason. The reason why I'm pointing to this being a basketball decision is because this was a reasonable basketball decision to make to some extent. The trio of Miller, Taron Armstrong and Tajee McCall, they played just over 300 possessions together. Their offensive rating is 100.8. So 100.8 points per 100 possessions. That is really bad relative to even the team's offensive rating, which is about 108 points per 100 possessions, which is the worst in the league. So those three playing together, your three ball-carrying non-shooters, that just hasn't really worked. And so I understand saying, let's get Tajee out of there, put another shooter on the floor. Maybe Tajee McCall is the one who would take the benching better than the other two guys. That is a reasonable basketball decision to make. That's my logical assumption.
I'm coaching. I'm putting the rookie on the bench and bringing my superstar who runs the team. He's starting for me.
Hey, you know what? That's the wonder of coaching. You get to make these decisions. If Cairns win, we probably don't talk about it. We say, hey, great move.
That's right.
Put the superstar on the bench.
Right.
Anyway, we're going to cut to a break. Big Sauce coming up next. Welcome back to NBL Overtime. It is my great pleasure to welcome in, as always, South East Melbourne superstar and, of course, now working for the same catering company as Leonard Copeland, Alan Williams. Fellas, this is just, man, you guys have just stepped it up a notch.
And you know what? If it looks good, you throw it on. And I don't think there's ever been a conversation where somebody's saying that Leonard Copeland and Alan Williams don't look good.
No, that is too
I love it, bro.
Hey,
yes.
Smooth as sandpaper, these two guys. Now, let's jump into the Phoenix, because obviously, look, heading into this weekend and, of course, a couple of games previous to that, with how undermanned the Phoenix were, to say that they have played bravely and valiantly is an understatement.
Yes, you're right.
As much as I know it's hard to watch, how proud would you be of they've beat the bookies line by a mile every single game they've come out here during this injury stretch? These young guys have just stepped up.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's a testament to the development of the coaching staff with these young guys who have been just working and putting in the extra work all season. Obviously, opportunities weren't available for a lot of these players early on in the year, but to have that dedication and that drive to continue to work and improve their skill so that when they do to get the opportunity, like we're seeing now, they're able to shine and show that they're NBL level players. It's awesome.
We spoke about it last week, how you guys had a meeting, you and Creaky sat down and talked to him. And they just came out and played so much better with such confidence and having fun, and playing in front of that crowd was amazing.
Absolutely. I think it's showing that you still have something to play for. Whether or not we're in the finals push, whatever it may be, every single player on this team is conducting themselves in a professional manner to go out there and put the best effort forward. And I got to shout out our fans, man, our Southeast Melbourne Heartland fans.
Hacking it out.
Elite, 2 home games left. We got our Fan Fest coming up, 150th game of the club. A lot to still celebrate, a lot to still be excited about. So.
Is it true that there's a chance the Fan Fest maybe turn into an open tryout to potentially fill some of these injured roster positions? You got 6 players.
He can't help himself.
For a guy that would not make the Southeast at any stage.
We are not allowed to tell the truth on this show. All right, so just that is banned. But we'll crack into it right now, because one team that I most definitely never get mentioned in is the All-NBL First Team. Now, you as a player, I feel like you get the best gauge of, you're on court, you're seeing it week in, week out, you're doing these scouts, you're coming up against these guys. You're All-NBL First Team.
Yeah. I took some time to think about it, obviously.
I'd hope so.
I shouted him out, but obviously starting with Bryce Cotton, Mitch Creek, Anthony Lamb, who obviously has the injury now. It sucks to see that. Chris Golding, best player on the best team. And then my last one was tough. I was in between with this one, but I went with Gary Clark on Illawarra.
I like it. I like it. Who was the honourable mention? Who were you tossing and turning about with Gary Clark?
It was Jack McVeigh. It was Jackie McVeigh. Just from a sense of, I think Tasmania, the third place team, should have a representation possibly in that. Illawarra's fourth, and so there's just that between the two. And I just went with Gary Clark because I think his impact was bigger on their overall success and the turnaround that they had this year.
We had the change this year. First time ever it's been positionless. When you sat down and tried to work it out, did you take positions into account at all, or did you just go, all right, it's positionless, 5 best guys?
Yeah, there was a part of me that was trying to find a center in that position, but I think with JLA he missed too many games, sort of like myself, and just looking at those numbers, that it's tough to put him in that first team against some of the other forwards that I mentioned previous. And then Isaac Humphries was another one that I kind of wanted to incorporate in there, but I just think that it came about a little bit too late to be in consideration. When you're looking at those guys, you see the consistency of those 3 forwards that I picked up, and I just think it's a no-brainer there.
PJC, was he a mention at all? Did you think about?
Absolutely, but who are you putting him in over?
I know, I'm just asking. I mean, it's tough. It's tough.
It's so defensive.
Yeah, I know.
Is that the team you'd pick? Is that the team you'd pick?
I'd probably have PJC. Can we pull that up again?
I think, too, I put the team overall record into effect. Obviously, Creaky, we're at the bottom of the ladder, but his numbers speak for themselves. But everybody else in there is in a competitive space.
That is a very good team. Yeah. That is a very good team.
Would I be right in saying that this is one of the hardest years to pick the All-NBL First Team? The spread of talent at the top level. Now, injuries have impacted that a little bit, but the spread of talent is unbelievable. Even we're talking about bigs. We got Alan Williams, Isaac Humphries, JLA. There's just the centre category itself.
Well, there's been a suggestion, and Hools, our man Hools, has been saying this a lot, that I think when the captains and the coaches sit down and vote, they're going to try to put in positions. I don't think they will.
I don't think so either.
If it's been said that it's positionless, I think they're going to sit down and go, all right, best 5 guys.
Could you get 5 guards?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's how we are now.
If 5 guards are the best 5 players in the competition, then maybe. I don't think that's ever going to be the case, though. I think you talked about earlier on in the year. You're going to get in a situation where it's going to kind of skew its way into positions anyway, And
maybe,
Let's go to someone that the guards seem to hate with a passion right now, and that is Will Magnay. We spoke earlier about the hit with Tajir McCall on Will Magnay, and it was quite an aggressive one, and there seems to be always a bit of tangling and a bit of toing and froing, and people seem to play Magnay quite tough. And when I say tough, they seem to get in with a couple of shots off the ball. Is there any reason that you can see as a player that Magnay gets targeted like that?
Yeah, I don't think Will Magnay necessarily helps himself. He's a big guy, so don't get me wrong. Big, tall, strong guy. And the way that the Tasmania JackJumpers play and their mentality is these good morning checks that you typically get when you're crossing half court. I remember down in Tassie, Christmas Day game, he would not let me go. I'm running down the court and just boom, random check here. And so that's just the style of play that he plays and the Tasmania JackJumpers tend to play on a consistent basis. So if you're giving those out, you got to expect that you're going to be getting them back, because I'm for sure going to give them back. There's no way. My mama ain't raised nobody that's going to get hit and not get their hit back. And so you're seeing a result of this.
It's a part of the game, man. You're going to get hit. We're talking about it now. It happens in every single game, and I don't know why it's such a big deal.
Is there something? That's very interesting to say that a lot of times you feel like it's a bit of payback for what he does down the other end. Is there something about the way he rolls to the rim? Because, you see those it's the help guy who's the roller dude, and he's not tagging him, he's hitting him.
Now, I do think there's an element of it is the athletic ability and the true skill of Will Magnay. Is he's a hard roller at the basket. He's going to kill you if he gets that lob dunk. He's going to kill you if he gets it off with rebound. So we got to have our antennas up as weak side defenders and know that, hey, we got to tag this guy in order to stop him from getting that lob dunk. And so sometimes you get in there and you hope that you're early enough to be able to possibly take a charge there or something like that, or a check. But again, going back to that constant physicality that the Tasmania JackJumpers play with, in the back of your head, it's like, dang, they hit me 3-4 times running down the court. I got to find a way to get mine back a little bit, you know?
Is he the guy for the JackJumpers? So when I was in the league, I remember going to the play against the Townsville Crocodiles. And one of my Titans teammates said in the locker room, hey, there's a slab for anyone who takes Brad Davidson's head off. Right? And that happens.
Yes, it does.
Is he the guy for the JackJumpers?
I don't think he's the guy for the JackJumpers. I don't think it's necessarily like, oh, he's circled on our board. It's like, let's make sure we get a hit on Magnay today. But I do think there's an understanding that anytime you're playing Tassie, you're going to get hit. And if you don't hit back, obviously in a legal manner and try to do it the best way possible, if you don't get hit back, you're going to get rolled on. And Will Magnay is a perfect example of that, too. If you
you hit me, I'm going to hit you back.
I'm saying, if you don't hit Will Magnay back, he's so good. If you don't hit him back, he's just going to try to dominate you the whole game. And
that example you just gave there, I was asked to do that once on an international trip. The head coach of our team said, hey, I want you to go out there and smack this guy. Ilmaine Diop was the guy. Had a good career in Spain. I walk out there, I'm like, I didn't play much. I'm going to get this guy. I walk out, he goes, how are you, bro?
And that's Will, man. Will Magnay's a nice guy.
I was getting called a coward for not doing it. I was like, you know what, man? No one's asked me that this week.
You're a coward.
Who is one of those guys around the league right now? I suspect Ben Air is probably that guy.
100%. A lot of it because of his mouth as well, though.
Ben doesn't do himself any favors in that perspective, but
part of what I love about it.
I love it.
Yeah.
You need guys like that. Tasmania needs Will Magnay to be the enforcer, to be the guy that guys are going to want to get back. Sean Bruce. You see these guys in this league on these really good, talented, deep rosters that help them get to that next level. And I think, like you talked about, Jack McVay may have a big-time postseason. I think Will Magnay is a good candidate for somebody to really, really show what he can do in this.
At the end of this big discussion, I say we've gotten to bring back the Biff. Keep it going. But we got Santa's watching coming up after the break.
Santa's watching, fellas, each and every week. Don't stop watching. And there's Jesse Wagstaff. He's mad. You should have seen it. You should have. And look at this. This is beautiful. He said, "You didn't win no chips."
Now, kids.
Finn's saying, "I'm trying." No, you didn't win no chips.
That was so good. Yeah. That was good. That was good.
I'm trying to win a chip. Yeah, you haven't won no chips, man.
It's like father and son.
Magnay, hey, big fella's been taking some hits, but he's been dishing some out.
Everybody.
Hey, you watch out, sir. That is a $773 fine.
Wow.
And 49. I'm glad she was okay. Hey, you got a booger there, man.
Oh,
You're my
Hey, what are teammates for?
I think you were saying get rid of that mustache.
Hey, and Volkanovski's getting the love, but your man over here, nothing.
Oh, what?
Like, please, somebody.
Adesanya.
Nothing. Don't get any love.
Hey, that's what, you know what? They only respect the locals.
Hey, he sees himself on camera. Hey, come on, guys. Hey, play some D. My man just deadlifted Denzel Valentine.
Hercules.
Denzel said, "Hey, good job, man. And this is from halfway. Bang. Big time shot.
Oh, is that for 100 grand?
Clutch.
What was that for?
But not to be outdone, Aussie rap. Walk-off game winner.
And he runs off. Where are you going?
Oh,
That's
man.
not a walk-off. That's a run-off game winner from Aussie
If you're
rap.
hitting a game winner like that, what are you doing to celebrate?
Hanging
I'm running
out.
straight into the crowd. I'm going like forgetting my teammates. Bang.
Why are we even talking about this? Because you've never hit a game winner and you've never played
come
a
on.
game. So just move on.
Oh, hey, Aussie rap, Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, under 20 Nationals. Huge shot.
Okay. Round 19 coming up. Most important match of the round.
Well, the Hawks are going to be interesting, but I tell you, I'm going with Brisbane. Their season is on the line in that game against Adelaide.
Hawks, they play New Zealand and Sydney. If they win both, they go to 14-12, solidify their place in the top 4.
There we go. It's all happening. Thank you very much, Liam Santa Maria. Thank you very much, Leonard Copeland. Make sure you use the ladder protector. And remember, smile more. The world ain't as bad as they make it out to be.